What the hell's up? Welcome back to Reviews with Jake. I just got done watching The Green Knight. I can't see in this thing. Can't breathe in this thing. I can't review in this thing.
The Green Knight is the latest A24 film, which is a tale about King Arthur's nephew who accepts a challenge that takes him on quite a journey. I think that's all the synopsis I'm going to give you because frankly, that's about all I had. Every week before watching or reviewing a new movie, I always run it past my girlfriend to see if it's one that she'd be interested in watching with me for the first run at it. Usually this entails me pulling up the trailer on YouTube, she gives it a watch and gives it the old Joaquin Phoenix judgment call. This one she watched and said, yeah, I'll see it. I have no idea what it's about, but I'll watch it. Which made me chuckle because that's exactly how I felt. I think that's how everyone felt watching the trailer. We all knew but a few things, one of which being that it looked beautiful, which that alone will get me excited. Two, it's a tale set in medieval times with King Arthur, which that'll always pique my interest. But the third of which being it's an A24 film, so you know even though it's a King Arthur tale, it's not going to be told in the way that you've ever seen before. For better or worse, A24 you can always count on one thing, that even if they don't knock it out of the park, they're gonna at least fumble in a way that's very stylistic, unique, and graceful. So let's start the pros right there because this movie has all of that, starting with the style. This is the best looking film that I've seen all year, and frankly, I don't think it's very close. This film is gorgeous. Hats off to David Lowery, the director, for helming such a stunning looking and sounding film. The cinematography was outstanding. Very amazing compositions, very creative camera movements, a lot of long takes and oneers. The most beautiful use of color, taking different color temps and clashing them together in very creative ways. I mean, it just looked beautiful. An awesome soundtrack from very simple, subtle, cerebral elements to some very full choral numbers, all of which complementing the whole medieval theme to a T. And with it being a medieval film, naturally it has some amazing locations and set designs that really transport you back to this era. From the interiors of castles, all lavishly designed, to dungeons that are very dimly lit by torches, I genuinely felt transported to a different age, especially when they went full Lord of the Rings where our protagonist is on his quest, traversing just the most vast, beautiful landscapes and scenery that you've ever seen before in your life. I looked up the filming location of the film and it was filmed in Ireland, which checks out. I mentioned a few weeks ago in my review of a classic horror story of Ireland being my go-to example of beautiful nature spots in Europe, and here we are, scooping my jaw off the floor having seen a bunch of scenery from Ireland. I also read that it was quite the perilous production as they were dealing with some very harsh elements in Ireland. But if you ask me, those efforts, not in vain, because the cast crushed it. Starting with Dev Patel, who brilliantly portrayed this knight, our main protagonist, as trying to find his place in the world. Find his purpose, find honor, respect. You can see this internal conflict going on through his performance. And he's aided by a supporting cast that equally kills it, all portraying very interesting characters that he encounters along his journey. Alicia Vikander, Joel Edgerton, Ralph Ineson, whose voice is just harrowing as the Green Knight. Everyone excelled. They're all given at least one scene where they get a chance to just chew up the screen in a really long take. There's just so much to appreciate in this 2+ hour movie that takes you on a trip, a journey unlike which you've ever been before in your life. However, if you ask me, the film does have some cons, which may or may not be a surprise to you based on the high praise the film has been getting thus far. Everyone is acclaiming this film, saying it's damn near perfect. It's a masterpiece, and I may be on an island here, but I don't think that's necessarily the case. But before I dive into my personal cons, I feel like I need to slap a disclaimer on them. My personal experience seeing this movie for the first and only time thus far was not the greatest. I saw it in the theater that we saw it in, did some distracting things with the lights. They kept a few lights on throughout the whole course of the movie, and then at one point they blasted us with like the cleaning lights, incredibly distracting. On top of that, I've been experiencing some back and shoulder issues as of late that happened to flare up while I was watching this movie, so I could not get comfortable in my seat to save my life. So I'd be lying if I said there was absolutely no way that these negative things happening outside of the screen were affecting my positive experience watching the movie. That being said, here are my current negative thoughts toward the film and frankly toward A24 in general, which may or may not be popular thoughts. Like I said before, A24 films can usually give you one thing guaranteed, that anything with that distribution label slapped on is going to be unique, outside the box, different. Which in most cases is a very good thing, because different in this day and age is kind of a rarity. However, I do think there are many cases where A24 films get a little too artsy, a little too self-indulgent, which frankly draws a line in the sand for reviewers and audiences alike. They sort of convinced us over the years that their films always require a higher level of thinking, which I do think checks out because some of the most profound, emotionally impactful movies I've ever watched were A24 films. As a result of this reputation, I feel like anyone who watches an A24 film is kind of forced to say that they love it. Because if they say that they don't, they're sort of met with criticism, like, oh, you just didn't get it. It wasn't made for simpletons. It's kind of like going to a comedy club where the comedian tells a joke that everyone laughs at but you don't get, and you're kind of forced to laugh because you don't want to look stupid. But what if hypothetically everyone else in the club feels the same way you are? Now everyone is just laughing out loud at a joke that isn't funny just because it's a comedy club and everyone's supposed to laugh. I kind of feel that way toward A24 in general. Like, I feel like by name alone, everyone wants to say that they love the movies just because they don't want to be labeled as the person that just does not get them. Long story short, this movie's plot didn't do much for me this first time around. I mean, I basically went in blind due to the vagueness of the trailer and having zero familiarity with the original source material story that it's based on. Per usual, I avoided all of that. I avoided all reviews before seeing it like I always do because I like going in with a clean slate. I didn't even let my coworker, who saw it the day before I did, say a single word to me about it before seeing it. He walked into the office and said, "Hey, I saw Green Knight last night," and I immediately became the girl from the new Candyman trailer.
Don't say that.
And I'm watching this movie go along, and it is going along slow. I mean, this is a slow burn movie, which may be a surprise for you. It certainly was for me. I mean, I wasn't expecting a battle for Helm's Deep or anything, but there's swords and shit. There's got to be some action, which looking back, I really don't think there was a single sword fight in the film, which is kind of surprising. I mean, there was not anything inherently exciting about the movie. It chooses to go a much more cerebral, personal, metaphorical approach, which is maybe why my distracted viewing while watching the movie maybe took me out a little bit. I wasn't fully emotionally invested. I was zeroed in visually, audibly, I was taking all that in, but I was waiting for the internal connection to be made for me. Waiting for all the things I was seeing to bridge together. Waiting for the answers of a lot of questions I was accumulating as I was watching. Waiting for the climax, the peak, the crescendo, but it just never came. This film is slower than a slow burn. Like, normally if a film has the slow burn classification, normally it's like the first two acts that are a little slow, but then the third act picks up and it sort of pays you for being patient with it throughout the first two. I was trying to be so patient with this plot, this story, and I just did not feel rewarded at the end of it. There are so many questions I still have, several characters, subplots, events that I don't see the significance of, metaphors that just didn't stick to me. I love metaphorical films. I love talking about them. I love dissecting them with people I watch them with, finding the significance of different things. With this movie, I don't know why, but I didn't feel that spark. I didn't feel the gears start to turn. It just did not feel like it connected with me. I looked up the synopsis of the original story, hoping that would kind of light the embers in my mind, get my curiosity peaking a little bit more than it was. And it did answer a few questions that I had, but not all of them by a long shot. I wish I could join the other Knights of the Round Table, the other movie reviewers. They're sitting in front of their cameras telling you how perfect and flawless this movie is, but I just can't. Not at this time, not upon the first view, and I just don't feel that way about the movie yet. I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm too honest. And coming from the perspective of an honest, regular guy, a perspective that maybe not all movie reviewers or critics are going to give you, I don't think this movie is for everyone in any mood. Like, you really have to manage your expectations here. Don't expect this movie to hit you with any sort of stimulation or excitement, not even in the end. This isn't just a simple matter of having patience. Patience implies eventually you're going to get hit by it, just not right away. This movie just doesn't hit you with it at all. This is a subtle, cerebral, soft smolder that if you go in with the right mindset, it'll take you on the trip that you're supposed to go. A trip that, admittedly, mentally, I don't think I was ready for given the circumstances. All in all, this is a breathtaking package of a film, but it's really the content where I fell off in this first initial viewing. I'm completely open to giving it another shot, but it's like Barstool Pizza reviews. One bite, everyone knows the rules. I'm going to give The Green Knight a B. As an indie filmmaker myself, I'm a little leery to put this thought out in the ether. A24 is probably gonna blacklist me and put me on a list that says assholes we'll never work with. Jake Roth. Joke's on you guys, I'm never going to make anything good enough for you to consider anyway. Self-awareness, folks. It's a good practice. But that's just me. What do you guys think? Let me know if you agree or disagree in the comments below. And make sure to subscribe to this channel to stay up to date with new reviews coming real soon. Stay safe, thanks for checking in.